Ellison asked Rurin to see the man and the woman over there. He told her to listen to their conversation and find out what they are talking about. However, Rurin asked Ellison to promise that he would give her a hamburger steak if she did this. She also mentioned that she didn't want to prepare the ingredients anymore. Ellison promised to do this, activated his skill, and started listening. The landlady said to the old man, "Don't you think it's time to tell my husband?" She mentioned that her husband is becoming more suspicious of their relationship and is sad because Ellison hasn't visited the butcher shop. Mr. Ment responded, telling the landlady that she knows her husband's personality. If he figures out that Mr. Ment helped him, he will be the one to avoid. After hearing this, Ellison asked Rurin if that's what the guy called Ment just said. Rurin confirmed, saying yes, and she is sure about what she just heard. Ellison thought it didn't seem like an affair, no matter how he looked at it. So he said, "All right, I don't need to know more," and jumped from the ceiling. Rurin asked where he was going, and Ellison told her to wait back at home. In the next moment, he went into the restaurant and asked the landlady and Mr. Ment if he could join them. He also mentioned that, just like they said, Mr. Knoll is greatly misunderstanding the two of them. The landlady and Mr. Ment were really surprised after seeing Ellison. Some time later, in Ellison's restaurant, the old man got really drunk thinking about his wife. Suddenly, the restaurant door opened, and the old man saw his wife and Mr. Ment. Mr. Ment asked the old man if it's been a long time since they've seen each other. The old man replied, "That's right. Seeing you two together looks quite nice." The landlady explained that he is misunderstanding, but the old man got really angry, asking what does it mean it's not like that. He expressed disappointment in Mr. Ment, stating that he trusted him. The old man prepared to punch Mr. Ment, but a magic barrier created by Ellison stopped him. Ellison asked Mr. Ment to resolve the misunderstanding and questioned why he would let the old man hit him, stating that the problem won't be resolved like that. Ellison suggested that Mr. Knoll would calm down if Mr. Ment told him that he lent him the money when he opened the butcher shop. After hearing this, the old man asked what did he say, but Ellison told them all to sit down at a table and talk it out. Ellison went to the kitchen to prepare food, mentioning that Mr. Knoll spent the whole day drinking, so he'll make a dish with soup to calm his insides. He decided on a shabu with Balaran meat that Miss Landlady gave him. Once he prepared several sauces with soy sauce as a base for the meat, prepared the soup, and filtered the anchovies and MSG, the shabu-shabu dish was completed. After preparing the dish, Ellison hoped that they would resolve the misunderstanding. On the other side, the old man asked his wife if what Ellison said earlier is real, questioning if Mr. Ment really lent them the funds for the store. The landlady explained that it's just like he said. When he had no money left after being scammed, Mr. Ment lent them most of his life savings as the store's funds. Now that their store has a steady income, she was meeting him every month to repay him. That's all. But the old man didn't believe him. He insisted the money definitely came from a lord's castle, returning the funds after catching the scammer. He asked, "So you're saying that was a lie?" Mr. Ment replied, asking if he would have taken the money if he had told him the truth. He apologized for not being there to congratulate him when he first opened the store. He had no choice as it would have looked like he deceived him if the truth ever came out. Still, he never guessed that the old man was having such a hard time, and it seemed like he did something unnecessary. The old man wondered if Mr. Ment had plans after retiring from his mercenary life, questioning how he could give the money without thinking about himself. Ellison interrupted them, saying the food is ready, apologizing for the interruption, and suggesting it's better to talk while eating. Mr. Ment asked Ellison about the thin meat, and Ellison explained it's Balaran meat from Mr. Knoll's butcher shop. He cut them thin for the dish where you cook the meat in the soup and eat it directly. Ellison asked them to try it. When Mr. Ment got a taste, he became really happy, and Mr. Ment recommended the old man try this as well. When the old man tried that, he also got really surprised. Mr. Ment said to the old man, "Do you remember the Paran battle? That day, I got stabbed with a sword to protect you." Mr. Ment said he still remembered that day vividly. They were out of supplies and food because the battle lasted longer than expected, and the only thing to eat was bland, watery soup. Then, Mr. Ment caught a wild Balaran. Though he collapsed right next to him, having caught just one, the meat soup made out of the caught Balaran was bland, and the meat in the soup was tough and pungent. It was better than anything else. The old man was really happy. His whole body was shaking after remembering that moment. Mr. Ment said to the old man, "You asked me earlier why I helped you despite my plans after retirement because I didn't have plans. I didn't have a plan more important than helping the old man." After hearing these words, the old man started crying, asked for forgiveness, and they cleared up every misunderstanding, enjoying their food. Sometimes later, Rurin said to Ellison, "A promise to a dragon is absolute." But it doesn't seem like that for him. She was thinking about hamburger steaks. Ellison promised him to make hamburger steaks. Ellison replied, "It's still evening. I'll make you the hamburger steaks right away." But Rurin was really angry, saying, "It's already night. How can he treat him like this when she was just requesting that she do as part of an appropriate contract?" On the other side, Mr. Ment called Ellison. Ellison replied, "I hope you enjoyed your meal." Mr. Ment replied, "Yes, and it was really amazing." But he came here because he wanted to ask Ellison something. Ellison asked what Mr. Ment wanted. Mr. Ment said the mercenary group received a mission to escort a quite high-priority person recently, and they wanted to host a dinner before departure to celebrate this. That's why, if it's fine with Ellison, he would like the dinner of the night before departure to be held in Ellison's restaurant, and asked if it would be possible. Ellison is really surprised. He never thought of hosting a group dinner for the mercenary group. The next day, Ellison visits the old man's shop, asking for some palanquin meat. The old man explains that palanquin meat is exceptionally rare, and if they were selling it, they would already be swimming in money. Realizing the rarity, Ellison gets really sad, reminding the old man that he promised any meat he wanted. Mr. Knoll questions where Ellison's confidence went, but then recalls hearing that palanquin recently appeared in the lemon forest. He suggests Ellison go there to catch some. In Lemon Forest, Ellison discovers that palanquin, though similar to chickens, behaves differently in this world. They periodically change their habitat, making them hard to find, and their swiftness makes them challenging to catch. Palanquin meat is precious with high demand. Despite numerous attempts, Ellison fails to catch a single palanquin. Frustrated, he contemplates burning down the forests. Later, he regrets the decision to include palanquin meat on the mercenary group's dinner menu. After some more tries, Ellison gives up and asks Rurin to try catching a palanquin. Rurin agrees with a condition. Ellison will be in charge of washing the dishes for a while. Ellison agrees, and Rurin uses her dragon fear skill, causing all palanquin to go unconscious. After catching them, Rurin asks Ellison how it was, emphasizing its scariness. She adds that if Ellison hadn't eaten a dragon's heart, he would have ended up like the palanquin. Ellison replies that he already ate a dragon's heart, finding it quite convenient. He asks Rurin to use her skill on 15 more palanquins. They later catch enough palanquins and return to the restaurant. Rurin gets beer and drinks it, expressing that a beer after finishing work is the best. Ellison teases her, saying she just glared at them and didn't do any hard work. Rurin, not happy, explains how tiring it is to use her skill even though her eyes sting. Ellison understands and advises her not to drink too much, leaving some for the customers in the evening because today's dish goes well with beer. In the evening, Mr. Ment and his mercenary friends come to Ellison's restaurant. One of them questions if this is the place Ment talked about and expresses doubt about Ment's taste buds. Mr. Ment responds, expressing disappointment in their lack of faith in him. One of them, Miltine, expresses trust in Mr. Ment and believes the food will be delicious. Another mercenary, however, admits he would happily eat grass if Mr. Ment told him to. Mr. Ment interrupts, suggesting they talk about it once the food arrives. When Ellison brings out the food, Mr. Ment apologizes, and their conversation becomes a bit loud. Ellison comments that a celebration dinner can't be quiet. Mr. Ment introduces his treasured junior colleague, Miltine, to Ellison, mentioning how much senior colleagues have praised the restaurant. Miltine expresses his anticipation and admiration. Ellison hopes the food will meet their expectations and asks if they are ready. As he serves the dish, the mercenaries are surprised to learn it's fried palanquin, a legendary monster that even expert hunters can't catch. Ellison downplays its legendary status and encourages them to try it before it gets cold. After just one bite, the mercenaries are shocked, proclaiming the food is incredibly delicious. They express that they've never had such tasty food in their entire lives. Mr. Ment proudly states he told everyone this was an amazing place. As they enjoy the meal, Ellison decides to attend to other tables, impressed by their reaction. Facing a surge in guests, Ellison returns to the kitchen and asks Rurin for help with serving. However, Rurin, reluctant to serve humans, reminds Ellison of her dragon-catching prowess. Ellison recalls their plan to open a restaurant after the war and expresses disappointment in the change of heart. Despite this, he offers Rurin the option to go back. Upon hearing this, Rurin changes her mind, intrigued by the idea of serving as a new experience for a dragon. Ellison tasks her with bringing the beer. After a challenging but successful service, they finally close the restaurant. Acknowledging Rurin's efforts, Ellison praises her and offers to share his portion. They enjoy the meal with beer, and Rurin expresses her happiness, declaring the food delicious. Ellison, surprised by Rurin's willingness to clean up, teases her about growing up. Rurin, however, explains that it's their restaurant, and she does it for that reason. They share a moment of happiness. In a playful manner, Ellison asks if they can cancel the bet about washing dishes for a month from the Palanque hunt. Suddenly, a visitor arrives at Ellison's restaurant, and Rurin becomes visibly scared. Ellison inquires about her reaction, but the newcomer comments on the unpleasant nature of visiting a human city, leaving the situation hanging. After seeing him, Ellison says, "It's been a while." He is Black Dragon Elder Metadonna. Metadonna tells Ellison that it's not a name a mere human can utter. Ellison ignores his words and asks why he came here. "You're getting by well living in such a small place," the Black Dragon says to Ellison, mentioning Rurin. Ellison asks Rurin if there's anything uncomfortable, to which she replies no, stating she's living very comfortably. Ellison then asks the Black Dragon if he came because of Rurin. As far as Ellison knows, there is no one who can stand against him taking care of Rurin. Ellison adds that he got burned big time trying in the past. After hearing this, the Black Dragon gets really angry, saying he can see that Ellison's mouth is still as foul as ever. However, he agrees that Ellison is right, and he came because of Rurin. After seeing Rurin's face, it's evident she is really sad. She says she will stay with Ellison and asks the Black Dragon why he is doing this all of a sudden. Ellison points out that he abandoned Rurin once, but the Black Dragon insists he never abandoned her. He was just running late due to the war with humans. He also mentions that Rurin's mother committed a serious crime against the dragon family. Before he can complete his sentence, Ellison stops him, saying he should stop talking about that. Ellison asks, "The important thing is the promise between you and me." He heard that a promise is crucial for dragons, and the Black Dragon confirms, stating they definitely promised to leave Rurin with Ellison. However, he raises the order of promises and questions if the first promise made shouldn't be kept first. Ellison inquires about the specific promise, and the Black Dragon explains that a Black Dragon is accepted as an adult in the family at 800 years old. Until then, they are protected and sent to the family's sacred land. Rurin, turning 800 next year, would have to leave for the sacred place since her mother's lair was destroyed in the last war. These are the family's rules, and violating them could lead to war. Ellison agrees, saying, "Let's do it," referring to the mentioned promise. However, upon hearing Ellison's answer, the Black Dragon gets upset, releasing his intense killing aura. Ellison, seeing this, remarks that he was worried for nothing. Ellison questions why they shouldn't be able to do it, but Rurin is visibly scared. Seeing Ellison like that, Black Dragon gets really angry and says Ellison might have eaten the Lord's heart. But he is looking down on dragons too much. Rurin is really scared. She asks Ellison if she is fine, emphasizing that he can't start a war because of him. However, they misunderstand Ellison, as he is not talking about war. Instead, he is saying that he plans to make a dragon lair for Rurin. After hearing this, Rurin and Black Dragon get really surprised. Ellison explains that they have a whole year, right? They just have to complete it within that time. Ellison believes he should have enough treasures, so they can start now. He asks Black Dragon if he can do that, and Black Dragon replies that it's possible. So, he'll come back in a year. That's how Ellison started to make a dragon lair for Rurin, a lair that is literally a cave a dragon lives in, with a magnificent interior and dazzling treasures as its symbols. Ellison, however, realizes that creating one consumes a lot of time and resources, and he thinks they won't have enough time, especially with guests flooding in due to the rumor that they're selling Palanques. Despite Ellison explaining that they're not selling it anymore, the demand persists. Because of this, they're getting too many guests, and Ellison and Rurin can't handle them alone. So, Ellison thought he needs a way to decrease the number of guests. Sometime later, we see Mr. Knoll, who is really surprised after seeing so many Palanques. He asks, "What in the world is this?" Ellison replies that these are Palanques. Mr. Knoll says he knows that, but why Palanques? Ellison explains that he'll supply Mr. Knoll with Palanques, and Mr. Knoll is the only one in the Empire who can sell Palanque meat and draw in lots of customers. However, Mr. Knoll is confused and asks Ellison how he will catch Palanques, stating that even Great City's top hunter would find it too challenging to catch one Palanque. Ellison reassures him, saying he doesn't have to worry because Mr. Ment's mercenary group already had it once. They will split profit distributions by 50-50, and Ellison will deliver for free, taking half of the sales price. Mr. Knoll is not happy with this arrangement, questioning why Ellison is keeping only half when he is the one catching them and providing them to the shop. Ellison stops the old man and explains that half is entirely fair, as he won't be able to supply it in bulk, so Mr. Knoll won't make much anyway. Instead, he suggests using that as bait to sell more of the other meats and buy Miss Rain another set of clothes. Mr. Knoll, with an angry face, agrees to sell it for Ellison but warns him not to change his mind if he gets more profit later. Ellison promises him that he will not do that. After that, Mr. Knoll asks if he heard correctly that they change their habitats periodically. How will he go to catch them? Suddenly, Ellison used his magic skill to create a barrier around the forest. Mr. Knoll is really surprised after Ellison creates a barrier of this size because, in his knowledge, this is not something one can do after learning magic for just a few years. He asks Ellison who he really is. Ellison replies that he is just an ordinary restaurant owner who retired after the war, just like Mr. Knoll. He asks him to please keep it a secret that he uses magic. That's how the next day his plan was executed perfectly. Ellison gets really happy after seeing there is not a single guest. On the other side, Rurin asks if this is really something to be happy about. After hearing this, Ellison starts crying, thinking there would still be some guests. But he suddenly says, at least now they have time to build the lair. Rurin gets really happy hearing about the lair. She asks Ellison if he will live with her once they build the lair. Ellison, without hesitation, says no to Rurin because he intends to continue staying in his restaurant. Hearing Ellison's answer, Rurin says she doesn't need it and suggests declaring war with the Black Dragon family. Ellison asks Rurin to calm down. They're going to build it somewhere near the restaurant and tell Rurin not to worry, asking her to follow. They get to the hill directly below the restaurant. Ellison says he will build the lair in this place since the restaurant itself is on the outskirts of the city, and all of the land nearby belongs to Ellison. Rurin is really happy, saying this much distance is okay for her. However, they have to keep stabilizing the inside with a barrier as they continue to dig, otherwise, the restaurant will collapse. Hearing this, Rurin gets energetic and asks Ellison to start digging together, but Ellison tells her she can work alone, and he will go back to the restaurant because he can't leave it vacant for too long. After coming back to the restaurant, Ellison lays his head on the table and reflects on how long it has been since he was so free. Suddenly, a guest comes to the restaurant and interrupts Ellison's free time. The guest asks if this is the famous restaurant, and Ellison welcomes him, stating that he doesn't know if it's famous but it's certainly a restaurant. The yellow-haired boy mentions that he heard he can eat the legendary palanque in this restaurant. Ellison apologizes, saying they don't sell palanque anymore, and suggests visiting Noel's butcher shop for palanque meat. The yellow-haired boy says he can't do that and asks if there's any other dish. He wants to eat something, anything right now. Ellison responds that if he's fine with a different menu, then please sit down and wait for a moment. And he goes to the kitchen to prepare a dish. While preparing the dish, he thinks the boy seems like the son of a noble with difficult circumstances. Ellison doesn't discriminate against their guests, whether noble or commoner, but he realizes the only dish he's made to fit a child's taste is a hamburger, as Rurin occasionally asks him to prepare it. So, he starts preparing it. For the patty, he'll use a Woka's sirloin, mince and shape it, add a bit of salt, and fry it with the bread and melted butter. He puts the patty on top of the vegetables and tops it with a demi-glace sauce with garlic. Finally, he adds the egg he got while catching the palanques. After completing the dish, he thinks that he won't be selling palanques anymore, but it's a different story for the eggs. With that, the hamburger, even a dragon can be bribed with, is done. Ellison gives this to the yellow-haired boy, and after seeing the really beautiful sandwich, the boy is really impressed. However, when he tries to eat it, suddenly an old man shouts loudly and says, "Young master." He has been searching for him everywhere and asks what he's doing in a place like this. He adds that what if he gets food poisoning from eating food from a place like this and asks him to follow him out. After hearing this, Ellison gets really upset, saying he was holding back, but the old man's words are too much. The old man notices Ellison and asks if he is the owner of the restaurant. He says he doesn't know if Ellison prepared the meal knowing who this person is, but he is the Lord's son, Grake City's Baron. His name is De'Aaron Grake. Ellison says he doesn't care if he's a baron or count, he just served food to a customer, and asks the old man if that's a problem. The old man gets really angry, saying, "What did Ellison say?" He also adds that Ellison is an arrogant guy. The yellow-haired boy tries to stop them, giving Ellison one gold cone and saying he doesn't know if the amount is right. But he made Ellison prepare it and didn't get to eat it. So he apologizes and starts going with the old man. After giving Ellison money, this makes Ellison worry even more. Sometime later, Rurin comes to the restaurant and asks Ellison when it's his turn to dig the lair. She's exhausted and can't do it anymore. Her hands hurt. Ellison says he'll dig tomorrow. He has more important work to do. He asks Rurin to let's go somewhere and starts casting his teleport magic. Ruin asks where they are going all of a sudden, mentioning she's hungry after working alone. Ellison tells Ruin he'll make something for her once they return, emphasizing that it's really important to him because he received the money, so he has to do it. However, they have to go to the Lord's castle. Sometime later, when the yellow-haired boy is sitting in his room, suddenly a blue portal opens in front of him. Ellison and Ruin come from the portal and grant the yellow-haired boy power. The boy gets really surprised seeing Ellison, so he asks what they want. Ellison replies that they came here to deliver the food. He forgot something earlier. Ellison gives the hamburger to the yellow-haired boy, saying he warmed it up again so he can eat it now. The yellow-haired boy is really curious about many things about Ellison. But first, he'll eat the hamburger. Suddenly, an old man's voice comes out from behind the door, asking the yellow-haired boy if he heard noises from inside and if everything is alright. After hearing this, Ellison gets really disappointed and thinks, seriously, let the boy have his hamburger, you bastards.